In this video, I've created an R Markdown file so that we can review how to load data. First, we're going to discuss reading in CSVs. This is a very common file format for reading files into R. And the best way to do that is to use read table or read CSV functions. We don't need any special libraries for this one. So to start with, we're going to pull our CSV file from a URL. You could just use the working directory path on your computer if you have a downloaded CSV file as well. But in this case, we'll just use this URL here that takes us to this tomato first CSV file. So just for ease of reading the code, we've stored the URL in this variable here, and then we use the read table function. We put in our file and as the first argument. In our second argument, we denote that the headers is true, meaning that our file, the first row is headers, and then our commas for our separation delineator. And then to make sure that this worked, we're going to call the head function just to make sure that our table was loaded in correctly. So let's go ahead and run this. And you can see that our file was stored and then loaded in here. It's over here in our environment as well. We can see that there were 16 observations of 11 variables. So we have 11 columns and 16 rows. And we have a little glimpse of what this data set looks like. It looks like it loaded in just fine. If you have a very large file, read table is going to be very slow. In this case, you can use the readr package and the read dlim function or the data table package with the free add function. Okay, so another common format of files to upload into R is Excel. For this, we do need a read Excel package to open Excel files. So we'll go ahead and call the read Excel file here. And then we have a function here called Excel Sheets, which we can run to tell us what sheets are in our file. In the file that I've provided for you, there's only one sheet, but in other files there may be more than one, so that this way you can see the sheet names, and then if you need to call a specific sheet as an argument in the read Excel function, you would know what that sheet name was. I'm going to store our data as data here and use the read Excel function, and then we'll double check to make sure that everything was loaded correctly. If I did need to call a specific sheet, I would just add that as the next argument, sheet equals, and then the name of the sheet. So let's go ahead and run this and see what it looks like. Okay, so our first argument down here, you can see we have one sheet, and then sheet name is car details V3. And then if we wanted to look at our data, it is loaded as a tibble. And I'm going to pop this out here so I can see it better. Okay, so it looks like our data loaded in just fine. We have 13 columns or 13 variables. Perfect. And we can see up here, it's a tibble. Just a small file. Okay, and then there are other file types that we can connect to or load in. We can do JSON files. We can connect to web pages and pull simple tables from HTML pages. We can also pull data from other statistical tools or our binary files, but and these are all covered in the R for Everyone Chapter 6. And as well as data that's included within R, like the IRIS dataset. However, we're just going to cover one more thing in this tutorial, and that is reading from databases. So we need to first download a database file to play with, and then we also need the R SQLite package. For our file, we're going to download it from this URL here into a destination file, which we're going to name diamonds.db. and we'll set the mode to workbook mode. So if we were to run that, it will run down below. So it's opening it and then it's downloaded. It's good to go. I'm using Alt-Enter to run line by line instead of running the entire chunk all at once. So I'm going to load this library here. And then we need to specify the driver that's going to connect us to the database. In this case, it's SQLite, the SQLite driver. So we'll store that in the variable drv. And then we need to call the class function. Then we're going to use dbconnect to establish a connection to the database. We'll store that in the variable con. That will be our connected database. We're connecting to that diamonds.db file, so let's go ahead and run that. We're good to go. And then we will use some functions to learn a little bit about our database. So the first function is this db list table. So if we run this, we see that we have 3 tables down below here in the console. The output shows diamond colors, diamonds, and this other SQLite stat1. So let's get the fields for the diamonds and diamond colors. If we list the field for diamonds, we see that there are carat, cut, color, clarity, depth, table price, X, Y, and Z. And then if we get the field list for diamond colors, we see color, description, and details. So now that we're connected to a database, we can use SQL on it. In order to do that, you can run queries. So the first query we'll run will store in this diamonds table variable, and we will use the db get query function. We're connecting to our database, and then we just simply in parentheses put in our SQL query. So the same SQL language you would use if you were in an Access database. And then we set the strings as factors to false. And if we run that, we will get a table. We can see it over here. It looks like it's got 53,940 observations, so it's a big table. If we want to run a query on the color table, then we could do the same thing. We'll select all from diamond colors, and now we have our 2 tables. We can also do joins. So since it's a longer query of SQL code, it's good practice to store your SQL code into a variable. So we're going to select all from diamonds and diamond colors, where the diamonds.color field equals the diamond colors.color field. And if you don't know SQL very well, that's okay. This is just a way of telling the database to join these 2 tables by these 2 fields. Okay, so now if we shove that into a new table called diamonds join, we can call our long query variable, which stores our SQL command there. And if we run that, oops. Oh, I need to run or store my query first, and then I can run my argument here. Okay, so let's check our work. Let's make sure that we have all 3 tables loaded in. I'm going to run this entire thing all at once just because. Okay, everything looks good. There we go. And then we'll pop out our outputs and check our tables. So we've got the 3 data frames. Here's the first one that we did with the diamonds. Here's the table with diamond colors. And then here's the joined table. So you can see the carat, cut, color, clarity, depth, table, price, XYZ are from, and color from the first table. And then the description and details fields are also pulled in from the diamond colors table as well. So that concludes our tutorial on loading data into R. And then from here, we can move on to practicing other functions, coding, and actually playing with the data now that we have it loaded.